And here is lovely Liz from Cole, Tennessee. How are you, Liz?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, so it's just been snowing today. We've had quite a nice white surroundings. It just looks so beautiful when it's white.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And is it about to
Gorgeous.
snow in Tennessee?
It looks like it's so cold.
Oh.
It's so cold. So yes, soon enough.
Wrap up. Oh, well, hopefully this talk will warm you up because I'm so excited to have you on to share your journey and obviously what you do. As mentioned in my introduction, Liz is a licensed therapist, a life coach, and a speaker who helps people around the world let go of what they should do and embrace what they feel connected to. I absolutely love that.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I love that too. I feel really
Yeah.
blessed and grateful for the work I get to do.
Ah, fantastic. And it'd be great to find out more about, what led you into this line of work and
Yeah.
just obviously, what inspired you to become like a life coach?
Yes. Oh gosh, it's a long story. So hopefully I'll keep it brief.
Fire
You
away.
know, I grew up in a funny, quirky family, and I always kind of felt like I didn't really fit in anywhere, and I was just an
Okay.
average girl. And there was an opportunity when I was in high school to be a peer counselor, for lack of a better word. But you got selected, and you had to be a senior, so the oldest grade, 12th grade here, and you were able to help younger classmates with emotional issues.
Okay.
And it was the first time I ever felt good at something, and I got selected. And it was such an honor. And I really found this gift and this desire to serve and help.
Okay.
And lots of things happened between then and now. Went
Yeah.
to college, university, had my own abusive, traumatic relationships, really had to find my way out of that and understand mental health from a totally different perspective. It was no longer just about the sweet girl trying to help the world, but it was really trying to deeply understand life that's messy and traumatic and how to come out of that and live in the best way you can.
Yeah. Okay.
That works for you. And
Yeah.
through that work, I had a lot of time working in intense clinical mental health
Wow.
that took it out of me. And I wanted to make a shift that was better for my lifestyle, my family. And so I discovered life coaching and kind of made that transition. And it was a really beautiful process. And I'm so happy to be where I am today. I still am a psychotherapist. I still have clients in that capacity, but I also get to provide new support for other folks as a life coach as well.
Oh, wow. And I love that, the combination of the therapy and the coaching, because I just feel like, with therapy, obviously, you have talking therapy, supportive therapy, but I just think that the real drive comes, when you are goal setting and, when you are looking for the future rather than just keeping talking about the past, right?
Yes.
So what kind of approach do you apply during your therapy and life coaching as well?
So it can be blended, and then I can also keep it very separate depending on my client. If somebody is coming to me with significant trauma, with past work that needs to be felt through and processed, we're doing psychotherapy. We're going and doing various modalities in that capacity to get them to function and stabilize currently, right? Like that's what we want, is that stability. But then if they're coming to me and maybe some past stuff is coming up, but they're really just wanting to up level their life or career or just make changes and feel more confident, then I can bring in those goal settings, that dream casting, that really intentional planning, which will push us to the future, while also going back and assessing some patterns that aren't serving us anymore and addressing them and training our brain to serve us better.
Wow,
So that's
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what percentage of your clients are trauma clients?
They're a smaller percentage now because I have pulled away a little bit from trauma focused care, because I was in trauma focused care for years,
Wow.
years and years.
Okay.
And that was 100% of my clientele.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now, just with my family and the lifestyle, I want to be able to serve and provide quality care with whoever is in front of me. And you get to a point, when you have such a heavy caseload and every single client that you're speaking to needs 110% of you, you fall thin, you fall flat, you're not able to give it all to them. So yeah,
absolutely.
so it's probably 20% of my clients now for trauma care.
Yeah, because we talk about self-care and it's just so important, especially as a therapist. So what do you do for self-care?
Oh, I will be honest, I was terrible at self-care.
Oh.
I was preaching it, but I was not doing it. I will tell you now, it is still a struggle at times because I have a tendency to get absorbed in my work, and I struggle to separate. However, I have made improvements, and my self-care really, for me, I find nature incredibly healing. So if you look on my page, if you see my website, you'll see the nature. I'm from Northern California, and out west, you've got the big trees and the mountains. And so self-care for me is getting outside, gardening, grounding myself, and really stepping away from the noise of the world and into the presence of life.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of trauma survivors struggle with because we're just so stuck in the past, and it's so difficult to even understand what's going on until, like, especially for me and a lot of survivors that I know, it was especially until we actually sought help and started to talk about what happened to us. And finally, you kind of understand, why these repetitive patterns keep occurring. And and it's such a, for me, it was a long process to actually.
There's no timeline on that. It really is slow and steady, and consistency, commitment to yourself.
Absolutely. So what kind of processes were you using and are you using with your smaller amount of patients now when it comes to trauma therapy?
Yeah, have you ever interviewed, and this is a question for you, I'm flipping the script all of a sudden, therapists with EMDR training?
I haven't actually, no. Yeah.
I'm in the beginning stages of that. I've experienced it. I have not done it to people yet. I'm work in progress on that. But learning and understanding EMDR, which is a specific type of therapy for trauma. But when I was practicing specifically with trauma, I was really doing mindfulness-based work, really bringing them into the somatic experience. And I was using traditional cognitive behavioral therapy techniques to get them to really retrain their brain. But I always felt like with CBT, the piece that was kind of missing was that connection to the body. And that's where the mindfulness and the somatic psychology really came in, where you're blending the two of what are you physiologically experiencing, and then what is the thought associated with that. So how can we break that chain if we need to break it and recreate a new chain to move past it? Or how do we actually keep that chain, if it's a good response, and maintain it even stronger? So that was kind of the work I did. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, absolutely it does. Yeah, because I'm basically training to be trauma therapist at the moment. So
Beautiful.
I know. So I'm learning about all of this, and safety stabilization phase, which is phase 1, and then you go on to emotional regulation, and then on to the we're using prolonged exposure therapy, and and it's just about rewriting the script basically. But in terms of the mind body behavior connection, we call that like the 3 body channels. And it's just really for me, that's thorough work, because that's when you really do understand how your thought process is connected within your body. and
Right.
and why you act a certain way. And I
The
guess
trauma response, right? That's like the actual response.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
something that, again, I just think it just brings you to the presence. And that's the best place to be for any survivor, is in the present. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so exciting for you. I'm excited for you that you're doing all
Thank
this
you.
training and work, because it's so
Yeah.
necessary and essential, and we need more people doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I call us the light workers. We're out there spreading our light.
Amen.
It's a
Yes, that's
delight.
beautiful. Beautiful. I love that.
I know. So and it'd be great to find out a bit about what you're doing with your life coaching as well, how you actually help women to kind of really embrace what they feel, and to actually be connected to the present, and so that they can go off and achieve their goals in life.
Yeah. So, life coaching is one of those things where right now there's no rules, there's no governing body that is controlling what life coaching should look like or what it should be. And on some token, that's awesome and wonderful, because you can kind of do anything. But on the flip coin, you can kind of do anything, which can lead to odd things.
Trial and error.
Right. So for anybody, so if you are looking, and I just say this because as somebody who struggled to find the right community, the right life coach for myself, finding someone who was trained as a psychotherapist, as a trauma therapist, somebody who had that professional training on top of being a certified life coach, it just really solidified their knowledge and experience. And I knew that I was going to be safe with that process. So I just wanted to preface that. But as far as my experience with how I guide women through that transformation, and I do work with men as well, I just predominantly have ladies.
Okay.
It really comes down to a couple of things that I work through. One is self-trust. Okay. And that is a beautiful process that as you go through trauma healing, as well as how can you trust yourself and your body again? Because a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times we feel a lot of great shame that we weren't able to defend ourselves better, or we weren't able to protect or fight against, or not have this happen, or got in that situation, whatever that story may be. We shame ourselves for it.
We do.
And that can cause us to be in a loop of self-sabotage, right? Where we just continuously prevent possibilities from happening in a good way. And so women who are in that cycle, self-sabotage can go across from significant trauma to more minor traumas, and it leaves them feeling stuck. So people have this consistent behavior. They don't understand why it's happening. You can simplify it to the diet that you never stick to, right? So really understanding, well, when were you able to rely on yourself? When have you had trust in yourself that you were going to show up, that you were going to stay committed, that you were safe in your body and in your mind and in your spirit? And if you're not, then what are the things we need to do to get you there? Because if we don't feel safe within our own body and within our own thoughts, how are we ever going to make massive, imperfect action towards something better? We'll never be able to do it because we'll never feel safe enough to take the risk. So that's one of the biggest things I focus on.
Oh, I love that. And I think that goes down to your intuition, because so many times I've just totally neglected my intuition. My intuition was trying to save me from these unsafe situations because I didn't trust in myself. Oh my goodness. I always think, imagine how different my life would be. I suppose it goes with a lot of people.
Absolutely. I mean, mine too. I can't tell you how many times I would have a thought. It was my intuition, my gut, my, heart saying like, run for the hills, Liz. And then I'd sit there, and I would just sit in it.
So no, thanks.
No, I'm okay.
I want to embrace the storm.
I'm just going to stay here in the misery and wallow. Like, what are you doing? But it's because we've built up a resistance to listening to our intuition. We've built up a resistance to trusting ourselves. Mostly, I would say, because someone told us that we aren't supposed to trust us, that it
Okay.
came from an external source. It stings, right? It
That
stings to
does.
think
It's a
that.
shame, absolute
But
shame.
I mean, it can be so small and so simple. You know, an example would be a kid at dinner table and the mom says, finish your plate. And they say, but I'm totally full. Their body says they're full. They are full. But the mom says, you have to finish your plate or you don't get dessert. So you get shamed for
Yes.
trusting your body, for saying, I'm full. They
Wow.
get in trouble for that. How many times have you heard or seen that story
I
with
see it
parents?
all the time. Yeah.
And they're just not hungry. So then what it teaches them is,
Wow.
oh, my body's not actually correct. I can't trust myself.
Oh,
My
God.
mom knows better.
Oh no,
And
I just can't believe I just realized that.
I know it's like mind blowing,
yeah,
right?
it is.
Oh
Like,
my
it's like
God.
awakening.
Now you're
Boy.
gonna go to your little kiddo and be like, are you full?
He'll be like, yes, but I know. All right, high five. Yeah, okay, here, let
You're
me take the
full.
dinner away. Yeah. And he wakes up
You're
middle of
done.
the night, hungry.
That's so funny. But
No.
I mean, it's true and that's a very simplistic example, but we've all, I think every single one of us has experienced something like that,
Yeah.
where someone has told us how we are feeling or how we are experiencing life internally or externally is wrong. When I was a little girl, an example for me, I got really scared because my mom was late to pick me up from school. And I didn't know what happened to her. I was scared. So I started crying. And the secretary said, stop crying. You don't have any reason to cry. Your mom's coming. Just stop crying. You don't have a reason to cry. Well, I very much so did internally feel scared. So what I was told was my feelings are not valid. I should not feel what I'm feeling. So I have to suck it up. And that's not trusting me and my emotion. And that is the smallest little example. But how powerful is that?
That is too powerful. Yeah, because, and I always think like your secretary, I always think that whatever people inflict on you is how they're feeling about themselves. That like, she must have been so miserable in order to have no empathy towards you. I mean, God bless her, you know. I hope she found some happiness in her life. But it's just, yeah, it's little things like that. I think, you know, how dare people inflict their pain and their misery upon you and try to steal away your light.
Right. And it happens. And it, you know, more likely than not, it was completely unintentional. She was probably just saying, you don't have anything to worry about. Mommy's on her way. But how I felt it and how I perceived it was something was wrong with me and I'm not okay to be crying. And a lot of little boys feel that, right? They're not allowed to cry. They have to be tough. And these are just things to gain awareness, right? Is how we are interacting in the world. And some of these patterns, you know, parents taught them to be this way. So, you know, like the mom who said, eat your vegetables or eat your whole dinner, like maybe she doesn't even really care, but that was something her parents taught her. And she's just trying to parent to the best of her ability. She's not meaning to inflict, you know, self trauma there, but yet that happens. And
it does.
And so gaining that awareness and having that resiliency within yourself to know, like, it doesn't have to stay this way. I don't have to repeat this pattern and I don't have to distrust myself any longer. I can actually change the script.
Wow.
It's really powerful.
That is. I mean, you know, you're a survivor too. As you know, this show is for survivors. And do you feel like just that episode or any other episode, do you think that kind of contributed towards what happened to you in your relationship?
100%.
Yeah.
So I would say in my home, as messy and dysfunctional as it was, you know, I didn't experience the that kind of trauma in the home. But what I did witness was self-neglect, especially from my parents. So my mom neglected herself significantly. And I learned, especially your mom, right? She's the person as a girl, like you're idolizing, paying every second of attention to. I looked to her and mimicked her behavior. I mimicked how she treated others, which was so kind and beautiful. But I also mimicked how she treated herself. And she always put herself last. Her self-care was non-existent. She didn't really speak up, even though I knew internally she felt something. She wouldn't say it. She wouldn't really speak it out, right? And bless my mom. She's a beautiful, wonderful woman. I love her dearly. And yet, as a woman and an adult, now I can be objective and see that. But as a daughter and as a young girl, taking and soaking in the world, that is what I thought was okay.
Right.
So then I got into a relationship where then those patterns that were very toxic began. I didn't stick up for myself. I didn't speak out when I thought I wasn't allowed to. I let the control to begin to happen. And I had no confidence or self-trust or belief that, oh, I can say no, or I can find someone else, or I can even be alone. That wasn't displayed for me as an option. So I didn't mimic it. I mimicked something negative.
So what did it take for you to actually come out of that?
So much therapy.
Right. Okay.
Good answer. Yeah. Honest therapy. No, there was never a point in time where I had like this epiphany and was like, I'm done. No, I didn't do that. I was honestly the typical survivor here in America, in the States. I'm not sure how it is in the UK. The average survivor goes back and forth to a toxic and dangerous relationships a minimum of 7 times.
Yeah.
So I did that.
Okay.
And I don't have a number count because I don't even know.
Right. Okay.
But for me, it was coming through therapy. I had free therapy provided, thank goodness, at my university. So I started going there. It was a free, safe clinic, a place I could rely on. And I started to find some strength by going there. And I had separated myself. I was going to a different school. So that by going to a different school, that helped me have my own space.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of specific events that really took me to the point of saying, no, I'm not going to tolerate that. And I think the final straw for me was having been in therapy for about a year, and then my health got put at risk in that situation. And once my health, like finally my health was really at risk, where I was in the urgent care due to that situation, that was kind of that moment where I said, enough times, this is, things have built where now it's my health and I'm not okay with that. But I did not have the strength to do that until I had gone to therapy and had professional support for about a year.
Goodness. So, oh my God. So you are a survivor of actual physical abuse.
It's complicated. How do I say this? So I will just tell this. No, I was not physically assaulted in any way.
Okay,
I was put at risk by his behavior risking me. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, dangerous driving and
so it was more of his behavior that impacted me. It wasn't that I was punched or hit or physically assaulted in that way.
Yeah, but it's
still equally as dangerous.
Emotional abuse, manipulation, control, they are just as dangerous, even worse, because it gets into the head,
right
and into the body. And it's just I just feel like that is the worst type. Wow. So thank you very much for sharing, your story of survival. I really appreciate that, because I just think that, for everybody out there, it's just really good to give that hope that, they don't need to suffer alone, and that, to actually understand where, a lot of this trauma and, the abuse that people have endured, where it stems from. And a lot of the times it is from childhood. And I think there were some stats that came out saying that everybody is abused to some degree, even if it's just being like being spoken down to at school, that could actually traumatize a child, in their future life.
Absolutely. And I think with trauma, it's a spectrum. A lot of people have categorized it as an extreme.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that. I think trauma can come from many different situations and can impact somebody differently. So two people can be in the same traumatic experience, like a car accident, but two people can walk away with different emotional traumas beyond just physical too. They can have two different experiences. And that's what's unique about trauma is it's not one size fits all. It's not the same for everybody. And it is a continuum. It can be more extreme than others, and less extreme. So for me, I think I didn't have some of the more extreme traumas, yet I was still very much so impacted and a survivor. So it's complex.
Yes, it is. It is. And I think, what I've learned from just this conversation is, to be mindful of, what I say to my son, and to, like, I've always said that I'll always talk to him like, a proper human being. And even as a baby, I never kind of spoke to him like a little baby. It was always like, right, I'm going to change your nappy now. And he communicates like with everyone like a bit of an adult. And I think, there's something to be said about the way that we actually communicate with our children. It's so important. Communication is key, and that's something that I've learned.
I worked as a school counselor for quite a long time, and I worked with children from the ages of 5 to 15. And the biggest thing that I learned was to let them lead. To let them lead. They have a free spirit. They have passions. They have a personality and interests that they are here to teach us just as much as we are here to teach them. And if you give them the space to actually lead you, you will learn so much. And you will also have a better connection and a greater relationship with them, because they feel empowered and they can be themselves with authenticity and without judgment or fear of judgment. And it was very cool for me to go through that. I was not perfect when I started out. I had to learn the hard way with a lot of sassy kids. Oh my gosh, I got put in my place many, many times.
Wow.
So, but that I think is very powerful. Treating them like they're, humans. Like, how are you today? What is really going on? It would always bother me so much when I'd go into the classroom and a teacher would use that tone. You know what I'm talking about?
What, patronizing? I hate that.
Billy, why are you late? What did, I would just, cringe. It was so awful. I'd be like, Billy's late because he had to go to the bathroom. His stomach hurt. Like, he doesn't need to explain that to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Stop harassing him.
Or Billy was with me in counseling. So anyhow, it would always I would kind of get a little defensive.
I love that. I'm so glad you've said that. Because there's something about the schooling system. I just don't feel that, how it was back in the days, that it should continue that way, because kids are so much more free spirited and independent learners. They don't want to be sat there being taught to. I know I don't even, at this age. I find it so, I just switch off.
Right. We turn off. I mean, adults do. Why do you think if we don't listen, why would they?
Exactly.
So, gosh, I witnessed that a lot, and I felt that a lot. And I do believe that this education system isn't really modernized to the children of today. So that's another problem for another day.
Another episode.
It's something to just be mindful of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, wow. So what kind of resources would you recommend for my listeners?
Oh man, there's so many.
Wow. What are your favorite?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know if anyone's recommended The Body Keeps the Score, the book.
Love that one. Yeah.
You read it?
I'm reading it on my audio amongst 10 other books, but
you're like me. Okay. I can't remember the author.
Oh, Bezel.
Okay. I'm just like, I'm drawing a blank. The
Yeah,
body keeps the
he's great.
score, I just think is very beautiful. Any kind of book, if people like to read, or if they're, an audiobook listener, is really just pick something that speaks to you, whatever it might be. Anything in the self-help or trauma healing world can just be so beautiful because you chose to pick it. It speaks to you, you get to listen to it, and that's empowering. And again, like always coming back to that self-trust, starting to do things that are for you. And one of the things I have my clients as an activity to do is really clarify their values. And I don't know if anyone's done this before, but one example that I do is I actually give them a sheet. I give my clients a sheet of values, and these are just words on a piece of paper. You can Google value sheet and it'll pop up. There's tons of words, and I want them to highlight these words. Automatic. Don't think about it. Just highlight whatever speaks to you, and then go back through and narrow them down to only a handful of values. And these are for you and only you. Not for your partner, not for your children, not for your teacher or your coworker, anybody, just you. And I think that can be a beautiful exercise and a resource to help you kind of come back to who you are and what you care about. As you're going through this work, you can lose yourself, right? Like it's so overwhelming. We're so stuck in the pain and the hurt and what has happened. How do we even know where to step forward into the future if we don't know what we care about and what we value in our life and what we want to keep and take with us into our new journey? So doing an exercise like that can give you tools to know what I'm going to move forward with, what's going to come with me on this journey, and what decisions you'll make according to your values. It will affect what you choose to do, right? So when I did that for myself, it was so powerful because suddenly I realized I basically valued all these beautiful things, and my whole life did not reflect that. I was living other people's values. I was totally living what other people cared about.
Neglect.
And that was, again, neglecting my trust, neglecting my intuition, neglecting my heart. And if that is any resource, I would say that's one of the biggest. If you can take the time to do that for yourself, you will be hopefully beautifully surprised that you are trusting yourself and following your intuition and listening to the values that you have put forth.
For sure.
And take them with you in the future.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work on values and beliefs and just identifying my needs, because a lot of this stems from Tony Robbins' workshops. He's great.
Yes. Yep. Study with him a lot. So that would be a great exercise and resource to use. I'm a big fan of meditations and visualization. So visualizing your healing. I have some meditations. Here's my pitch. No, I have some meditations and on Spotify, I believe, coming home to yourself. And I think that is beautiful. I'll share that with you. But there's so many beautiful visualizing meditations where you can walk through what you'd like to see your life be, what your safe place really is, how to come home to your safe place within your body. I did that work when I was working with my therapist, and it was mind-blowing experience for me, truly life-altering when I was able to talk to my future self. Oof, that was some magical work. It was wonderful. Wonderful.
What did you say?
Oh my gosh, I'll probably cry if I talk to you and tell you this. I visualized walking up to this beautiful home and all these things in my mind that I dreamed of. And I just knocked on the door and my future self opened the door. I did this years ago, guys. So, this was almost 10 years ago now. So I opened the door and there I was 10 years older. So basically me today. And I was just standing there, just so happy and peaceful and confident. And I was casual, which I usually am. And I had a little baby on my hip. And I was just like, come on in, just come in. And I told myself, I'm so glad to see you. You made it.
Beautiful.
And that's what I told myself. And like, oh,
yeah, I can feel the shivers down my spine actually.
Yeah, so powerful. I will never forget that when I got to go through that with therapy. And my therapist, it was hypnotherapy at the time. And she said, what is your future Liz telling you when you open the door? What does she say to you? And I said, she says, you made it. And yeah, so tell yourself that, you guys. Go walk that journey with yourself. It's a beautiful one and you deserve it.
And I'm glad you mentioned hypnotherapy because I love hypnotherapy. So what do you think that was the major kind of therapy which really transformed you?
I wouldn't say it was the only one. I tried so many different ones. I was also going to grad school through this process. So I was putting myself into different therapeutic practices constantly. So I really believe that it was a multitude, combination of many modalities that helped me, because I was also trying to figure out what I resonated with, what I liked.
Similar to me.
It was a big one for me.
It was, yeah. So hypnotherapy is just so relaxing. And again, I just feel just before you go to sleep, you can actually play a lot of these hypnotherapies and guided meditations from YouTube. And it's just fantastic to fall asleep to positive affirmations, because it kind of gets rid of all that negative self-talk that might be going on in your head, or the worries, anxieties of the day. So it's just about filling your mind with positivity. It's just, it can really transform your life. Positive self-talk, because we're like our worst critics, aren't we?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. So there's a lot of opportunity available to you and all of your listeners that are, tuning in and take what you can and listen to you, because you're a beautiful resource in and of itself, having your guests and knowledge.
Fantastic. So where can my listeners find you?
Yes. So you can check out my website at lizpessaran.com. Hopefully you'll have that in the show notes.
Yep.
And I'm on Instagram at Liz Pessaran and Facebook at Liz Pessaran Life Coaching.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And again, I'll be adding those links, and please do get in contact with Liz if you have any questions. And of course, you're offering your services as well anybody. Yeah. If they wish to take up any coaching or therapy with you, and you do your sessions virtually.
I do. So I can only, as your therapist, see you in certain states in the USA legally. However, I can still be your coach worldwide. So that's an awesome part. That's a wonderful part.
That is, yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Liz. It's been an absolute honor to have you on. I absolutely have enjoyed this conversation, and you've just given so much insight and awareness on certain topics, and I'm sure that my listeners will benefit vastly from it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I wish you all the best, and I'm so glad to be here.
Lovely. So that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will be back again with another episode. In the meantime, again, if you have any questions, just fire them away. Check me out on all my social media channels. I'll be back. Love you. Bye, everyone.